What's up YouTube, this is Slaan here from Northern Lan, and this is Project Slaanhatten and the official version 0.4 release tour video. And I'd done a sneaky little release about 2 weeks ago with the first 0.4 version, and what we're going to take a look at now is what I'm going to probably make available for download within the next couple of days at the time of the video, of version 0.4.2. So I'm back over on the south side of the hub, and before I jump into the map, I've got, because there's tons of stuff that I've added now in this version since the last, and what I had done in the last video and for the last version is I had just started to make this little residential area, which is kind of a tribute to Deersville. It's all the stucco housing themed, and you know, the old school sort of mainly vanilla prefabs, with the exception of things like the Hell gas station, which is one of Loaf Dog's creations. You can just see the stadium in the background, but we've seen all that now. And where I left you last time was basically the residential area stopped roughly about this area near the town hall. The car park wasn't there, and there was nothing at all on this side of the map. And it's been a little while since I've had some undisturbed space. This whole area is flat. There's no crazy elevation or hills or anything like that going on. There's no water, so it was quite easy to do huge chunks of importing, all thanks to Hal's prefab editor, which is what it's all I use to make all this. I do very little building in game, but you know, when it comes to the like importing, exporting, or in this case making a nice little street and then making it available to extract and tile. I mean, if I just have a little look, because the main thing I wanted to show off on the south side now is I don't want to use the word finished, because there's still a lot of little details and two empty sections just over here, but the framework and the foundation is there. And as I mentioned in the last video, I was quite concerned with how bare in particular the southern part of the map was, and if people are using it especially on dedicated servers for multiplayer, it just wasn't very good, to say the least. I mean, you know, people generally love the northern half of the map and all the things that we're quite used to now. And as I have a fly around here, I mean, prefabs as far as the eye can see, and I would say we are honestly, well, we're almost being able to call ourselves a city. So we're just approaching the area now where you would have looked at the last time. Sorry, I've got a little bit of wind there. And as we can see just over here, the highway itself has took its first new extension, and we have even more housing, and the map as a whole is looking pretty cool. Now, one thing that does trouble is there's still not very many zombies. There's one little dude there. What I've done for this version is every single prefab section that the city's made out of on the southern side of the river has its own entity spawn group trigger, or whatever it is. It's basically a little entity spawn thing that's attached to the prefab file itself, and in the vanilla game most individual buildings have one of these. It's basically when you run into the building and then bam, there's 20 zombies all over, or there's a couple of dogs at a barn or whatever it is. That's basically the little entity trigger going off. And one of the biggest sort of things that people tend to say to us is, yes, it's awesome, it looks great, and oh, wow, all these new buildings make it so much cooler, but there's still not a lot of zombies. And I don't know if this is related to the custom hub code, in the fact that the hub itself is still set as a town. The vanilla towns spawn plenty of zombies. I don't understand why the custom hub one would be any different, but I'm working on it, and it's noticeably better. Yeah, there's another little Z popping up just down there, and I've done a little bit more playing around only on single player. I haven't had a chance to get this onto the dedicated server yet, but I will do that within the next week or so and have a look at it. But from what I've seen in single player, there is a massive improvement. Now that we've I didn't actually intend to fly over here yet, but I might as well give her a look since we're here now. And this is, if people were ever wondering where the British steel industry went, here it is. Slaan saw that it was in jeopardy and figured he would do his part to save it. So what we have is themed very similar to the vanilla factories. We have this large, massive, soon to be finished steel smelting slash foundry complex kind of thing. I've been intending to make this area over here, and as you can see we've got a new section of river, but I'll cover that on the map in just a second. But this area was always intended to have some kind of industrial. Slaanhatten has a lot of homes now. I don't think we'll have enough living residents to officially call ourselves city and give ourselves city status. I don't know what it's like in the States, but over in the UK the living population has to be 10,000, and I don't think we have that many homes yet, but we'll get there. But as you can see, it's basic stuff. This was basically a copy-paste of one of the vanilla factories, and this is largely untouched. And on the low side of things, I would say this is the power side of the complex. This is where all the fuel's getting burned, and it's going to power all the machines and the foundry and all that sort of stuff. I'm looking at ways to connect it up. One of the things that I want, because I quite like the way in the city you get the parkour style across the roofs of buildings with them being so close, and with just a couple of blocks you can make alternative routes to travel, and I want to try and keep that here as well. So there's not a huge amount of loot, and when the version 0.4.2 gets pushed out in a few days, this is basically what you'll get, largely incomplete, very unstable. But the general idea would be is we're going to have some kind of crane or some kind of arm and grabber that would either take a delivery of raw ore from the river, so we'll have some kind of little docking area exclusive to this factory part, or we'll have a little car park and lorry depot where they could take the deliveries in from land. The raw ore would be separated into iron and coal, and then these would go along the conveyor belt into the totally realistic looking crushing slash grinding machines, where the ore granules themselves, do we put ore in the same group as gravy? I don't know. Maybe hit us up in the comments and correct us. Dust, iron filings, I don't know. But anyway, I haven't fully decided, because I've changed the layout on the inside, what's going to happen exactly. But the general idea would be I'll have some sort of... Get the torch on, because we can just see the ducting. So the idea would be is the minerals get ground up, and the destroyed stone will be ejected out at this side of the wall, probably on some long kind of pulley. I'll do a little like tip or waste dump area. The rest will go into these little foundry tins, and this is just a basic design. None of this is final, and like I say, I've changed things a couple of times already, so it's still quite empty. But like I say, I'll have some way to, some justifiable reason or explanation of how the processed coal and iron gets passed into these, and they will be cooked and smelted over here. And what I'm thinking, if we look at the factory roof, is I'm going to do some kind of pulley system in tracks and then make some kind of little crane. So what you would basically have, if you can just imagine the cursor as it disappears and there we go. So the crane system would kind of drive along this way, but I'll make it low enough so that these little struts off to the side could also have little tracks. So you can kind of imagine it would drive along, and then it would either go left or right to pick up the vats of smelted metal. And for those who don't know, and I by no means an expert in this field, but as far as I know, steel is iron plus carbon. So coal is carbon, iron is obviously iron. There we go. We have justifiable steel. So it was just a little spin to, you've got a realistic-ish, when it's done, looking industrial complex, but at the same time, rather than having loot containers and everything scattered all over, the real treasure of this place is actually going to be the coal and the iron and the minerals and stuff like that. And I have a few little ideas for a few little hidden areas and stuff like that as well. So generally speaking, the factory itself is coming along quite nice, and I think once you start flying along the highway and it actually has a roof, and we've got a sign up there, I don't know, Slaanhatten Steel or whatever we're going to call it. If anybody has a good name for a steel factory, feel free to drop it in the comments, and I suppose we can, if it is a good name, we'll get it on there. And now that we'll have the letters, yeah, all that's now possible. So if I stop rambling about the factory, and we'll bring the map up, and now you can hopefully start to see the scale. Roughly from top to bottom, I think is about 1200 meters, and east to west is about 1000, maybe it's about 900. And as you can see, there's now, with the exception of this little area here, this little area, and the side area obviously, and the newly terraformed industrial area, I've really been pushing my main focus into filling the areas out. Now you can see we have blatantly just copy pasted, and like I said, the version 0.4 was intended to be pushed out as soon as things were ready, and I'll fix things and modify things as this sort of version moves along, because I don't think I'm really going to do much with the sewer system over this side, and we will go and take a look in just a minute. The plan for this version quickly changed from let's put a sewer system in, hence the down the drain name, to hold on, let's just focus on making the map as playable as possible first. So now that we're starting to see a ton of prefabs and things in there, we have somewhere in the region of 1.5 kilometers of highway now, and there's no off ramps down on this western sort of extension. And the general idea, I think, right further down the line, if you could imagine the river coming along, because I still need to terraform this side of the hub. If I just pop over now, this was the uptown area, was I think the second major part that I'd done. So I wasn't really focused on how it was going to blend off into the landscape, but that is something that I'm becoming increasingly more aware of, and I think once the few little tweaks and changes have been done, by the end of the 0.4 version, if this area and all the current plans that I have for it aren't finished, at the very least we'll have an extra set of tiles here which will address these cliffs and these issues. I know Paul Scan, who plays on our local dedicated server, is not happy with these cliffs at all. I think when people are living in basements and things like that within this section of the city, I don't think they realise that when the zombie hordes come, they just tunnel straight through the side of this wall and start smashing things up. But for those who are just looking at the project or taking the tour for the first time, I'll have a little fly around so you can get a look at some of the old school, because the project now, what once was sort of a vision to get all of the big prefabs like the shopping centre, or if we nip a little bit, in fact we'll fly there, give us a look, even though my frames are dying in the snow. Don't know why that is, but I've left the frame counter on there because even though I'm hosting this on my local machine, I'm also streaming, and I'm also I've got the zombies and everything on there, and I get decent frames all over. It spikes for the worse over by the stadium, but when you've seen the stadium you can understand why it is ginormous and filled with all sorts of stuff. I did purge a lot of the lights out of there. It was just, I don't know, I cannot remove too much without messing it up, because I don't like to really tamper with the prefabs too much, especially when they're built to that sort of standard. But now we're starting to see the hub take a bit of flesh, now that I've got all of the residential area. As things like the power station and the other big prefabs that people are building pop up, we've now got, you know, I can stick an extra big building over here and we've got a little bit of residential in between it to break it up. I kind of see all of these residential houses and all the repeated things and the smaller shops, they are kind of the trees and the hills and the rock formations in my imaginary city bio. I can't go too dense with the really big crazy skyscrapers and stuff like that, which is kind of what the original plan for Uptown was, but I still think you can achieve the, maybe it's not, you know, middle of New York kind of look, but you can still achieve the dense inner city look with what I've done so far, and I'm really happy with it. Now there's hardly any zombies in this northern half, and one thing I would be really appreciative of when people are downloading and playing is if you could just, you know, take a bit of time to maybe I'm not saying count every zombie that you kill in the south and then run to the north and try and match your record in the same amount of time, but if you notice that the south is a lot better in that the zombie entity triggers are actually working, or if you're familiar with the code and you can take a look and think that there's something I've done wrong I could improve on, getting the zombies back into the city and getting the little bits and bobs like the cliffs finished off or some of the last major hurdles for the project itself. And once the main foundation's set and I've got all of the core big giant prefabs in there, that I don't like having sitting in the middle of a single cell in random gen all on their own. It just doesn't make sense to have a single shopping centre out there. It's once we've got all those core big builds into the city itself and it's looking a bit fleshed out, then we can start something like the Apocalypse Now edition, where I can go back over the city. Oh, there's a little bit of a spike. Is that someone ninjaing in and out of my game? No, it's just me getting paranoid. I do get the occasional hacker or crazy person come on thinking that, oh, there we go, it was. Terra99, you are live on the Slaan show. I shan't tell him that though. We'll just we'll see what he's up to later on. Now, if I just approach this area, because Slaan's a very polite man, I'll say hello and be nice to you until I find you with 66 rocket launchers in your backpack and then you get killed with fire. But no, I don't want a teammate. This is you'll have to apologise for us just blatantly ignoring this guy because I've got too many things to talk about. But here we are back in the school hub, which still hasn't had much done, and I just want to reiterate the whole school area, the build has been, everything that's been done in the editor as I've been tabbing through the different things. I've got the whole lot live streamed and I'm thinking about how I can put together a time lapse. The main issue is I have 3 hours of footage. I've done 3 separate 1 hour builds, which doesn't really look like a lot when you think of it, but I still haven't quite decided. I'm not the greatest video editor and stuff like that, so I'll have a mess around with, and I promise I will get the second part of the build tutorial for the project itself put out at some point. I'll probably have to harass Big C, I think, and get him to teach us some of the elite editing skills that he uses. So this pretty much sums up most of the stuff in the hub now. So like I say, how do you change time? The Wizard of DM. Though that said, from the comments I've had, sometimes I don't think people realise when it comes to prefabbing that you actually have the debug mode and turning off structural integrity and all that sort of stuff. So really, these are the last sort of areas that I'm looking at now, and if we go back over just to the industrial area, this is me just starting to experiment a bit with terraforming the river edges. I don't know, I like the idea of having maybe a beach area, and even if it was just rocks or a couple of stacks or a shipwreck. There's a lot of funky little prefabs that I've seen. I know Guppy made it's some kind of wrecked little tugboat that's on its side, and if all sorts of little builds like that can be dumped in the river just like the aeroplane, sexied up with a little bit of loot to make swimming and getting wet a little bit more worthwhile. But once we've terraformed the side and decided what we're going to do with these river stops here, gradually over time we'll sort these areas out as well along the river edges. But I think for a project that's now somewhere in the region of 5 months old, I think we've come a long way. If you've ever got the time and you've downloaded the project itself, have a little look through the folder. If you go into the archive section, you'll see all of the early concept maps back from when Slaanhatten was just an idea. All the ideas I had for different areas, and it was actually quite good. I might do a video at some point on that as well, because anybody with an idea can do this kind of thing, and I'm not the cleverest of people, I'm not super artistic, I love computer games, that's the main thing. And 7 Days was the first game for me that made, I wouldn't say complex modern, a lot of this is just building bloody prefabs Minecraft style, but they're putting it into the hub to get it spawning at random gen, to be able to tweak things like the zombie spawns and try and focus on making it its own little cool playable area. I'm toying with the idea for some kind of battle royale setup where you have maybe a 3000 generation distance on the random gen mixer. So basically your radiation zone would start 3000 meters from the center of the map, which would, I don't think I can zoom in out enough, but I mean 00 is about here. So I mean, if you could imagine the radiation zone hitting just off the border of the map, forcing everybody just to live and stay and survive within the city itself. I know things like woods and stuff would eventually become an issue, but the people who initially got the trees and got the seeds are going to have a little bit of an advantage, and you know, fighting over trees could be cool instead of fighting over a shotgun or a purple magnum or whatever it is that you kill people for these days. But there we go, the zombies are coming back now. I'm kind of hoping, because I used the extra large spawn trigger, that even if someone comes in and wipes a lot of the zombies out, I think that particular spawn group has a 1-day respawn timer. So for people living in and about the city and people regularly coming to loot it, I'm hoping, especially in the south side, because you've got to remember the north side doesn't have those triggers yet, but I'm hoping that people, you know, are generally going to find this south side a lot better now. I mean, I love it, and it's very basic at the moment, very, very basic. And as usual, if there's anything that you'd like to see added, if there's I don't know, if you'd like to work on the project or do a little build on a part of it yourself and you're not sure how and you can't make sense of the videos, hit us up in the comments or the forums. Feel free to add us on Steam. I regularly chat to quite a few people on Steam now. Different prefab ideas, different builds. I also like to go and spy on people's profiles on Steam when they're taking screenshots just to see what they're up to. Stallion's there and I'm looking at you. But no, I'm very open to making the hub kind of what people want to see. I mean, ultimately, is a fuck because it's what I want gets put in basically. But I mean, if you've got a good idea and it catches me eye, I'll go out of my way to make it happen. I don't know what's happening to Loaf Dog these days, but I'm almost at the point when I want to start harassing him again for some skyscrapers. So there's, you know, I'll find homes for all of your builds, especially the big ones. Like the power plant, I think I can't decide if I want to put it next to the factory or do another factory here and do like docks, or maybe push the power plant over and bring the river around to make this more like a sort of an islandish kind of thing. I don't know yet. Like I say, I build a lot of things ad hoc and a lot of things change. Just look at the concept map from the last version and look at what I've built for this version and you'll see exactly what I mean. So, with the rambling out the way, we're at 22 minutes, which is a little bit longer than what I wanted, but we've covered quite a lot. I think pretty much everything. The main thing is you can see the map now is well worth downloading, is well worth playing on multiplayer. We're having a good blast on it now, and it's pretty funky having all the streets and stuff like that. We actually have in the region of 3 to 4 groups living and working in and around the city. So, you know, it's getting there. It's getting there. First pebbles and then boulders. So on that note, thank you to everybody who subscribed after the last video. I do believe after 55 subscribes that I've added way more than 55 buildings. It was a nice try and I did get an extra few subscribes and comments for it, so I appreciate those. Thank you very much for the likes. But more than anything, give us some feedback. Even if you don't subscribe, if you cannot be bothered to click that like button, if there's something that bothers you with the hub or something that you think would, you know, be decent or a nice little change, then please, please, please let us know, because everybody has their kind of idea what cool and funky is, and I might not necessarily agree, or it might not be to my taste, some things that are suggested, but sometimes you just have to take one for the team, because a good idea is still a good idea whether you're super happy with it or not. So like I say, get the feedback in there. If people could keep an eye on what they think of the zombie spawns in the southern half, especially people who've been in and around the city over a few days, I'd be very interested to hear your feedback on the zombie spawns and how it's going with hordes in the city and that sort of thing. But for now, I hope you just download and enjoy, and please like, share, subscribe and tell all of your friends about this. Join our Facebook group, join the other Facebook groups and share this here. Join the Steam group. add us on Steam. I don't know. Get us on the forums. Anywhere you want. I will be there to read and listen. So for now, this is Slaan signing out, and I hopefully will catch you next time.